MSIX is steadily gaining traction in the enterprise, much due to the great work of Tim Mangan and his package support framework fork, which now claims to get around 90% success rate when converting applications into the MSIX format, and that only falls 5% behind the AppV conversion success rate, according to Tim's report card in 2025 over a random sample of 115 applications. So it's probably an opportune time for organizations to start looking into the feasibility of migrating their applications over to the MSIX packaging format. This demonstration shows how I can automate that process using a local Hyper-V lab. So I'll select the virtual machine, I'll select the snapshot, I'll import the administrator account that we'll use to convert each application, and indeed the password. I'll select the signing certificate and provide the password for that. This is what we'll use to sign each resultant MSIX package. I'll select the template we want to use during the conversion process and the packages.json file, which we'll use to iterate through all the packages we want to convert. Finally, I'll point to the sign tool that we can use to sign each MSIX package. Now, whilst this is happening, I'll guide us through how it works in the background. We have a to-convert directory, which contains our applications that we want to convert to the MSIX format. We have Adobe Reader, which is in PSADT format. We have a script which just writes some text to a file. We have Inkscape, which is an MSI and an MST. We have Notepad++, which is an AppV package. And we have WinSCP, which is just an MSI file. And when each application is converted, it will write it to the converted directory. We can see that it's already converted Notepad++. Now, the reason this happened so quickly is because Notepad++ is an AppV package. And when it converts AppV packages, it does it in place on this local machine. It doesn't need to spin up a virtual machine and do a capture process. It will just do the conversion in place. We can see there whilst we've been watching that it has actually spun up a virtual machine and it has captured WinSCP, and we can see the output of that MSIX package. Now, what it does when it iterates through each of the packages we want to convert is it generates a temporary XML file, and this is what the MSIX packager uses to exclude files with file exclusions, to exclude registry. We can also use it if we wanted to prepare our virtual machine for when we're doing the packaging process. We can see as well we've got some prepare computer attributes down at the bottom. I already disable these services in the virtual machine because it just speeds up the process. We can see we have a save location of where we want to save our MSI to, our installer path, which is actually a bootstrapper, a virtual machine information, and then package information below that. It also writes a log file for each application that we convert. We can see that it writes an error log and also a standard output log, whereby we can open that and we can see exactly what our packaging process has captured. If we go up a level, we can see that, as we mentioned earlier on, we have a bootstrapper CMD. Now, I typically use this more often than not because I've found that there are a couple of small bugs with the MSIX remote packager, whereby it doesn't always copy every single file over to the virtual machine, and then during the conversion process, the conversion will fail. So I use my own bootstrapper to basically copy all of the package content over to the virtual machine, and then I invoke it using the bootstrapper, and this makes sure that every conversion is far more reliable than it would if I didn't use the bootstrapper. The packages.json is basically a JSON file which includes all of the packages that I want to convert. It will include the copy source if I use that. Now, this is where we can point to some local source and say, look, for example, WinSCP, here we're saying, I want you to copy every single file and folder recursively in this path over to the virtual machine before you commence the packaging process. We specify a save location, so this is obviously the resultant MSIX. We specify the installer path, so here is our Bootstrapper CMD. We could also specify an MSI file directly there, but as mentioned, I'm not too sure how well it actually deals with external files, maybe external CAD files. We can also provide installer arguments. Again, I think you can put transforms in here, or if you were pointing your installer path directly to an executable, you could maybe put in a /q down in the installer arguments. We have a package name that we can specify, and a display name, and a package version as well, and of course, a package description. Now, because some of the packages that we're converting are large in file size, I think Adobe Acrobat Reader DC is over 1 GB. I'm not going to leave us hanging whilst we watch this conversion process take place. I will reconvene shortly when all of our packages are converted. Welcome back. The conversion process is now finished. We can see that we started the conversion process at 2038 and it finished just after 9 o'clock, 21:02. So it took just over 20 minutes to complete the conversion of 5 applications, one of those which was around 1.5 GB in file size. I've copied a few of those over to the virtual machine that I have, so I'll add those now. We'll add Notepad++, and we'll add WinSCP. We can see that these put shortcuts on the desktop. We might not want that. We could remove those by either excluding them using the template XML file that we use for the conversion process, or we could add something to our Bootstrapper to clean the desktop at the end of the capture process. And if we launch those now, WinSCP, Notepad++, and finally Inkscape. If you want to drive down the costs of converting your existing application portfolio to MSIX, please reach out on LinkedIn or over on alkanesolutions.co.uk.